All right. Hello to those of you that are just a little bit early here. We're getting the hello and welcome to the MovingWorlds Institute live informational webinar and Q&A session. We are thrilled to have so many of you join us onto this webinar. For those of you that are tuning in afterwards, hello from the MovingWorlds team. Excited to have you here looking into the MovingWorlds Institute and how it can potentially empower you and your own personal and professional aspirations. We are joined right now on the webinar by Millie Vo, who's calling in from Seattle. Hey, Millie, as well as Cole Hoover, also currently based in Seattle. And my name is Mark Orshevsky, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of MovingWorlds.org. And we are really excited to get into really the throes of our application season for the MovingWorlds Institute. This is our premier program that helps working and accomplished professionals find more purpose in their work and figure out how to position their career in a way that makes a long-term and sustainable impact. And as we start any MovingWorlds session, before jumping into the content, we actually like to kind of pause for a moment of reflection and intention setting. And we'll start with a question that I hope you can all ponder here for a second, which is related to how is it that you can take your incredible experiences, your knowledge, your know-how, your connections, your insights, and use that to position that into a career that makes the world better. And awkward as this sometimes can be on a virtual call, I'll even let this just hang for maybe about 5 moments of silence so that you can process this question and set an element of intention of what you hope to learn in the coming year. And I always hate to break into hopefully some good and deep thoughts, but we really do value that as much as we work on external facing work, that there are very strong elements of introspection as well. And it's really what makes the MovingWorlds Institute so special, in that we know that finding purpose is more than just working on a specific cause, and making an impact is more than just interacting with others. And we use the entire Institute as a way to connect more deeply with ourselves and indeed the world around us. And I think one of the stories tells that best is Heather, pictured here in the middle, who was a director at a software technology company that focused in marketing, especially business-to-business technology marketing. And she came to MovingWorlds with this question of, I want to use more of my professional experience to support projects at home and abroad, but she didn't know where to start. She had quickly risen up the ranks within a corporate setting, but was wondering, how do I apply those into the impact sector? She was thinking about joining a nonprofit. She was thinking about being an advisor. She was thinking about starting her own project, or even going to a social enterprise. And she used her fellowship to make some hypotheses about what would give her purpose in her career and where she could use her skills to make the biggest impact. And at the end of her experience, at the end of her 6-month fellowship, realized that the right path for her was to take her rich knowledge in marketing, in technology, and in services, and apply that as an independent consultant to nonprofits, startups, and others all working on social impact problems. And we tell her story in a video, which is linked in this presentation, as well as linked in the website, which you can access after our webinar. But to help make Heather's story more real, I'm going to turn the microphone over here to Cole Hoover, who's the director of the MovingWorlds Institute and our educational programming. You can talk a little bit more about how over the 6 months of this program, it really does help position you to make the type of steps in your career that we just shared with Heather. So Cole, over to you.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Mark. And so excited to have you all. I know we've got people calling in from all over the world right now, which is so representative of our community, of these global leaders who come to our program. So As Mark was saying, we want to use this time mostly to answer your questions, but first just to give you a little bit of a peek into what the 6 months of fellowship really looks like. So the whole experience is really grounded in human-centered design, which is not only one of the skills that we teach throughout the program, but also kind of our philosophy. And a big part of human-centered design is going through the phases of inspiration, ideation, and implementation. So getting inspired, starting to recognize patterns of what's working, what's not, and then finally actually delivering something, building on your skills to make something new. So this all kicks off in our first phase at the kickoff. So the kickoff is our opportunity to begin, to really center on your purpose. We do this through a series of assessments that I'll talk about a little bit more in depth in this presentation, but things like the purpose assessment, like Mark was saying, finding ways to really understand your internal world and what you desire, what you're drawn to, and how that can help you through your strengths to make an impact out in the world. And the way that we continue to build on this throughout our 6-month experience is in a learning community, our fellowship cohort, which has accountability groups, which are smaller parts of the overall experience that help to hold you accountable, alongside with conversations with a mentor that we pair you with, and overall workshops and case studies. So secondly, throughout our 6 months, we want you to develop leadership skills, whether that's as a purpose-driven leader or a network leader. We have a lot of different kinds of leadership skills that we try to build throughout the program, because at this time in our world, there are complicated problems, and those need nuanced and skilled leaders who are drawing from a variety of disciplines to understand cross-cultural issues, cross-cultural opportunities, and finally, just how to show up in these uncertain times. And we do that again through case-based discussions, critical conversations that you have that all culminate in what we call the capstone, which is the way that we really package and finish off your cohort experience so you'll be prepared for next steps. So building off of these leadership skills, one of the core pieces of the program is helping you to understand how to better scale social impact. We have diversity in all kinds of ways in our program, and one of the amazing pieces of diversity we have is folks coming from different sectors, whether that's the corporate world or nonprofits, government, education. We really pride ourselves on having professionals who are purpose-driven from all different kinds of work. And the thing that we use to bring them all together and ground them in this experience are pieces of curriculum and case studies around human-centered design, social enterprise structures, business model generation. And we do this and explore it through weekly readings, webinars, community discussions, and more than anything, interactive experiential case studies that prepare you to have more of an impact in the field during your expertise field placement as a part of the MovingWorlds Fellowship. So not only are these skills important, but we really think that building upon your leadership skills and these social impact skills are just a fluency. One of the things that we found as this program has grown over the past couple of years is that regardless of what sector you're coming from, regardless of where you're at in your career, whether you're a director or you're just finishing up the first decade of your career, many of the people who come to this program are looking for more of a shared language around social enterprise, whether it's through something like the Sustainable Development Goals, being able to talk about impact investing, corporate shared value. We provide connections to industry leaders, people who are out there kind of pushing the boundaries, finding new ways to describe these social impact trends, and also readings that give us a way to discuss them and help make you fluent. So when you're going out to whether it's a job interview, a pitch, or anything within the social impact space, that you can speak with confidence, understanding these new trends and holding an awareness around them. I think that one thing that really ties all these pieces together, these theories, these skills, these experiences that you're going to build on, is our process around setting assumptions, setting goals, and finding ways to validate them. And one of the biggest things that we really emphasize as a part of our program is experience. Our transformational learning model is grounded in experience, and specifically the expertarian experience. For those of you who are new to our entire platform, MovingWorlds supports people in getting placed with social enterprises in the field. We do that through a project matching process where we find the right organization in the right locality matched with your skills. We then help you to plan out the project, do the experteering, and finally reflect on it and reintegrate the things that you learned, the impact you had, and the skills you gained back into your life. This is a really crucial part of the whole program. We also, when you come back and you reintegrate and you reflect, a really important part of that we set you up for with connections to social impact career coaches and mentors is finding ways to tell your story effectively. We have many people who join the fellowship in a time of transition, trying to build off their amazing career experience, like Mark alluded to earlier, and then take it really to the next level through storytelling. So throughout the 6 months and really at the end, we help it to culminate in an experience that you can talk about, that you can share with others, and you can use to find that next step in your career, in your kind of path towards greater impact. So finally, building off of this storytelling, it's all about not only your internal journey, your internal goals, but your external network. We are so blessed to have an amazing community of mentors and industry leaders and folks that we are going to connect you to based on what you're looking for. But we really, really want to emphasize that one of the biggest pieces of moving forward with confidence in the social impact field is knowing who's in it and knowing who you can talk to, knowing who you need to be able to be in touch with to find out about a new opportunity, a new job, a new learning path. So through all of our resources, we want to put you on that path. And networking is a really core component of everything we do. So going back to kind of the beginning of the experience, we really set the foundation, getting to know about you with tools like the Purpose Assessment, which is the largest ever study of how people find fulfillment and purpose in work. And also the Culture Wizard. Culture Wizard is a tool that helps people to map cultural differences, cultural similarities, and find ways that you can be more strategic going into cross-cultural work environments and communicate effectively to make sure that everyone's on the same page and marching in the same direction. These are just some of the ways that we start to analyze your strengths, analyze your purpose, and tailor a program and an experience that customized to you, because we know everyone's coming at this from a different angle. So that's a little bit on our foundation. Some other really core parts of our MovingWorlds Fellowship experience are our online community. So we built our own internal social network that allows the cohort to come together, have conversations, connect daily throughout the 6 months, and more than anything, hold each other accountable. So as a part of the fellowship experience, you not only are a part of your cohort, a part of the overall MovingWorlds learning community, but you'll also be in smaller accountability groups, which are people who on a weekly basis will be checking in with you, making suggestions, being sure that you're being held accountable to the goals that you're setting and that you're moving in the right direction. This is one of the pieces that we find to be most core throughout the fellowship experience. So another thing that we provide for you is this kind of structure, it's this foundation of guides. So throughout the 6 months, there is a whole lot of curriculum, a whole lot of experiences, a whole lot of opportunities to grow as a impact-driven leader. And we really kind of support that with a foundation of a checklist that's really a map of your entire 6 months that you can do on your own pace, but with our kind of reminders. We have guides that help you to kind of match with a mentor, to build on your experiences in order to present a capstone at the end of the experience, to prepare for experteering. It's a whole kind of miscellany of guides that help you to be as effective as possible throughout the 6 months, and then also have a record of everything that you've done throughout the experience. So for those of you who end up joining the Institute, you'll learn much more about these guides in the future, but this is just a little bit of a peek to some of the resources we provide to help make you as effective as possible. So finally, these are a lot of the pieces. If we're going to start constructing the puzzle of what this fellowship experience is, I gave you a little bit of a snapshot of what it looks like and what you can expect from your 6 months. But I'd love to kind of turn it back to Mark to talk a little bit more about kind of what he's seen, being the founder of this organization, and over the past decade, helping people to navigate this transitionary period and into the field of impact. Just to share a little bit more about how the supportive community makes that possible.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Cole. And, I think as we do navigate change, right, and if we know anything about change, is that it's always a little bit scary. It's always a little bit intimidating. And connecting with a group of fellows that are going through that is, I think, what makes the journey here so powerful. And it starts on the 3-day in-person weekend. And so here pictured in the middle is Davide. And if you go through our blog or you go through some of their stories, you'll likely stumble across his. And in our in-person weekend, amongst other things that we talk about are what are the things in our career that will give us a sense of purpose, right? The type of thing that we're excited to wake up to do, the type of tasks that make us feel like our minds are growing and our bodies feel alive. And where do you find those opportunities in the workplace? And we use that in-person weekend to crystallize on what those are, and then use the 6 months of fellowship afterwards to connect with mentors. In this case, Davide was able to connect with an experienced leadership development mentor who helped him think about some of his own aspirations to develop his own leadership skills and where those opportunities were. And when one opportunity presented itself to Davide after all his networking, how to actually take next steps in going through that. But along the way, he had a community of support as he prepped for interviews or discussed different organizations where he might find those opportunities. And, in this second video that's referenced here, it gives a snapshot of what happens in that in-person 3-day weekend. But the thing that I just think is so critical for that weekend is that you have the opportunity to connect with each other, state some goals publicly, and then have a group that really supports you, as well as to a degree holds you accountable and actually proceeding on those forward. And, such a key part of that goal setting process, and indeed the things that you do afterwards, are your social impact placement, where you actually take some of your assumptions and go into the field and go experteering. And this time I'd like to hand the microphone over to Millie, who's going to talk a little bit more about how we help you think through the type of projects you should be thinking about, and then indeed actually get matched with an organization and go experteering, whether you're going for a couple weeks or for a few months. So Millie, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So your social impact placement, otherwise known as an expertise project within the MovingWorlds community, is similar to what Mark has said earlier. It's an opportunity to weave in your learning from the program along with your professional experience and your aspirations. And so our matching team and the Institute staff will work with you as well as organizations within our network to co-create a project where you can draw on your professional experience to create a real impact and stretch yourselves in new ways. So here is like a high level overview of all the factors that go into the matching process for an expertise project. And then on the right side, you can see in the green where all of our expertise have come from in the past, and then in the blue, where their expertise journey have taken them. And you can find more of their stories on our blog in more detail. At this point, a common question that we get is, what does an expertise project look like? So if you go on to the next slide, you can see that expertise projects are meant to be flexible and come in all shapes, size, duration, like Mark mentioned. And our matching team will work with you and your specific circumstances to determine what's the right fit. That said, there is a trend, as you can see here. In order to ensure that your expertise project does produce a true impact, your time in the field strongly influences the types of projects you can participate in. I'll go through them in more detail in the next couple slides, but briefly, if you have 1 of 4 weeks available, your project will typically be one of a training or coaching nature. And if you can do up to 8 weeks in the field, your project may involve training, coaching, and execution. And for those of you who have 8 weeks or more to go expertise, you have the option to be a core team member of an organization as part of your project. Let me make it a little bit more real with you with some examples. If you go to the next slide, you see Leanne, a past fellow of the Institute. She comes from a nonprofit background and was interested in diving into the world of social enterprises, learning more about their agile approach to growth and development, and then seeing how she could bring that back into a more structured work environment. She only had a couple of weeks in the field, and so she joined a social enterprise in Cambodia called WeDoShare. And what they do is they try to bring higher educational opportunities to Cambodian youth. Together with the co-founders pictured on the left side here, Leanne worked with them to flesh out their partnership and funding strategy. Next we have Jill, who joins us from Canada. Jill's background is in marketing communications within a governmental agency. And similar to Leanne, Jill's goal with Expeteering was to also learn about social enterprises and investigate a different, more agile approach to creating an impact as opposed to the more structured top-down approach of government agencies. She had more time on the ground. So in addition to working with the social enterprise in Rwanda called the Women's Bakery, to design their marketing strategy, she got to be a part of the team to execute upon that strategy by meeting the women in the program, interviewing them, and getting their stories out into the field. And then finally, we have Fernanda. Fernanda wanted to try something different and meaningful, and she took an intentional professional sabbatical to explore the world of social impact. This took her to a Level Up Village, where she spent the next 6 months, so much more so than 8 weeks, 6 months working to support educational initiatives as a core member of their team. So on a strategic level, she helped to build out and improve upon their systems and processes so that the organization could be more effective and efficient in their work and be able to scale up better. But at the same time, like on a day-to-day basis, she was quick to jump in to support in the nitty-gritty things that we all need to do in order to keep an organization's wheels running. So you can find all of their stories, like I mentioned, on the blog at blog.movingworlds.org. Not to mention, you can check this out on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook for some of the latest update stories from the field from Expeteers there now. And so with that, I'm just going to wrap up and pass the mic over to Mark.
Perfect. Thanks, Millie. Was hung up on mute there for just a second. And I think as we think about all these experiences, earlier in the journey, right, we shared Heather's story, kind of start to finish, helping identify where she was going to go in her career and take tangible next steps. Or Davide's journey, who was very specifically working on, mentorship and specific organizations where he could use his skill sets. Now, oftentimes we also have people that are, looking to take the leap, but they don't even know which direction to start jumping yet. And I think one of the places where the Institute also invests a lot of time for members, regardless of where they are in that journey, is providing some of that career clarity. So here is Myrna. Myrna has worked with the United Nations, was in their communications team. She is from and was working in Italy, and she used her experience to help answer some questions that she had, right? Where she valued the work that she was doing and understood the impact. She had questions of if she wanted to be more in the community, or what type of skills she wanted to be flexing in her work. And what did she need to see in her own experiences to make that come alive? And Myrna used her experience to connect with farmers and small-scale entrepreneurs to figure out both to support them with some of their own specific earning goals and development projects, but also to answer some of her own questions of where did she want to go next in her career. And it really opened up a new world, if you will, for Myrna. And she shares her story on an earlier alumni presentation where she's very open and honest about some of those explorations and some of those questions that she had, and how her experience was able to help open up some doors and answer questions that she had related to caring deeply about agriculture. But there's so many different opportunities to get involved in. And what are those different opportunities? And once those opportunities exist, where do you start taking next steps? And along the way, the experience, the cohort, the community, and the industry leaders were able to help continue to make recommendations on what those next steps could be. And indeed, Myrna, as she shared in her video, is now working really in a full-time capacity, as well as experiencing and going through additional education to further her know-how of agriculture, especially as it can impact communities and smallholder farmers. So it's just yet another example of one of our fellows who has this desire, this belief that their skills and their time in their career can be used to create impact, but still also has questions about what to do next. And the structure of the Institute is really what enabled that very open exploration through that journey. And so we've spoken about the mentors, but Cole, I'll turn it back over to you to talk a little bit more about the industry leaders that we make available on webinars and who also support with providing connections and insights to help us all as we continue in our professional and personal journeys. Cole?
Cool. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, as Mark said, we are so lucky to have this amazing community of professionals. These are folks from all different kinds of fields, all different kinds of backgrounds. You have people like Nate Wong, who has worked over the past decade helping to kind of help companies to understand how they can have a greater impact. He's a leader in the movement for defining CSR and shared value. You have industry leaders and mentors like Akhtar Badshah, who was the director of philanthropy at Microsoft for years and years. You have social entrepreneurs like Sachi Sonoy, who is helping to create businesses for smallholder farmers in rural communities in India. You have people from all spectrums, best-selling authors, foundation leads, philanthropists, entrepreneurs who are here to connect with you and help you to take your skills to the next level. You can go onto our website and take a look, read through some of these amazing bios. There's links to all of their LinkedIn, so you can see the kind of people who are a part of this community and folks that you will get a chance to connect with as a part of the Moving Worlds Fellowship experience. And I think just to build off this, I'll turn it back to you for a second, Mark, just to chat a little bit about kind of our theory of mentorship and experience and how these things build together within the Moving Worlds Institute.
Thank you, Cole. So here you can see Fernanda, pictured, and again, this article linked to her blog post as well, which you can find on the blog. And Fernanda had come from this experience of helping a university in Brazil expand its marketing, expand its reach, and had questions related to, she knew she wanted to stay in education, but where? And as Millie shared earlier in Fernanda's story, she had used her experience to tap into different types of education programs, community programs, small schools, and also other initiatives, currently now working with National Geographic. But he was using that experience in the field very intentionally to explore new opportunities, but then use a mentor conversation. And as Cole shared, with our mentors, we don't just help you find a mentor, but we actually help structure a conversation between you and your mentor so that you're asking some of these questions about, what is the type of work that makes me come alive? Where are the opportunities for me to put that type of work into practice? How can I ensure that my career is making a bigger impact, but also giving me a deep sense of fulfillment? And I think Fernanda's story is really exemplary of that, because she was constantly questioning and using the power of the cohort and her mentor to ask and then answer some of those questions, which ultimately led her to work on, what is really a powerful initiative now with National Geographic Learning. So Cole, I'll kick it back over to you to share a little bit more about who exactly are our fellows, where are they coming from, and any other insights you might have for our interested applicants to see if the fellowship is right for them.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to connect and chat with us. We're going to open it up for questions in just a moment, but we had a couple more just really informational things we wanted to make sure were communicated. So as Mark was saying, and as you can see from all the examples we've shared, we have fellows from all over the world. We've had over 60 fellows who joined us from 18 different countries, from a variety of sectors. They're coming from large corporations, they're coming from government agencies, they're coming from an educational background, from an investment background, all different types of people, which really builds the diversity of our fellowship and allows us to have conversations across sector and in ways that we find to be truly impactful. People join for a variety of reasons too. A lot of folks are looking to make some kind of change, whether that's leaving their current organization or just looking for a more meaningful role within their company. We have supported people end to end in both experiences, whether it's refining what they're doing within their own sector or jumping into an entirely new one. Another piece that I don't think we touched on too much is we are looking for people who are on average 7 to 15 years in their career. We have had people who are beyond that, a couple folks who are younger, but we're talking about people who are highly accomplished professionals directors, individual contributors, executives within their organizations who are trying to take those skills and get it to the next level. Again, this looks very different for a lot of different people, so we'd love to have a conversation with you about it to see if it would be a good fit, but this is just a little bit of a snapshot of who our fellows are. Next, another unique thing about the program is regardless of where you're coming from, whatever sector or age or country, taking a leap and doing a transition is scary, but it doesn't have to be, and it's much more fun when you're doing it in community. A lot of our theory of why this program works is that we create a safe place for people to dream big, learn more about impact, find ways to make their skills kind of more in the world, and their skills translate into more positive change in both social and environmental ways. And some of the examples that you'll see are, we have all kinds of stories of people taking a leap, whether it's a niche going to help to cultivate the next generation of social entrepreneurs in Guatemala, or some of the fellows that you see here coming from a variety of different places, making big transitions, taking leaps in their careers, but doing it together. This is one of the pieces, whether it's through our accountability groups, our general community, our mentorship, we create a container that makes it easier, more enjoyable, and more impactful for you to make a transition. So diving into some of the more hard details, in this rapidly growing community of purpose-driven leaders, every year we launch several different cohorts, and we're so fired up. We're so excited for 2019. Our first kickoff is going to be taking place in Mexico City, and this is the current application cycle open. If you're interested, we request that you apply by this October 19th. You will be notified by October 31st. And we'll see you for the in-person training in late January of 2019. So in several months, that program then wraps up in June. But we have other kickoff cities happening. We have April in Seattle, Washington, United States. We have a midsummer July kickoff happening in Southeast Asia. And then finally capping off the year with a October kickoff in San Francisco in the United States. So these are just some of the ways to get involved, depending on time, your availability. We would love to have you apply to whichever cohort makes the most sense for you. And we're happy to hop on a phone call to talk more about kind of some of the details and logistics around it. So to give you just a little bit of an understanding of the tuition for this program. So we have designed a program that we hope adds as much value as possible and helps you make the transition that you want to make. And for the 6 months of programming, including all the things that we described, there is a $4,400 tuition, and that's relative specifically for the Mexico City cohort. The cohorts are priced differently based on the locality and the costs. Also to make it more accessible for people from those areas. So this is just the example for Mexico, but you can see different prices on our website for the different cohorts. And what this includes is the 4-day kickoff weekend with speakers, lodging, meals, everything. Once you get into country, we will take care of for you. Then moving forward, this is premium MovingWorlds.org access. You get connection to our custom matchmaking team who will help you find the most impactful experience out in the field, full access to curriculum and 6 months on our learning community. And then a really key part of the program, which we can't emphasize enough, is even when you are done with the MovingWorlds Institute Fellowship, you become an alumni and you join our larger purpose-driven leader community. So this is something that you get to continue to build on in years to come. So as a part of your Institute experience, you get also access to Institute-only program, which is different and really elevated from a lot of the other work we do. This includes the accountability groups that we mentioned, all of the assessments that help set the foundation for you and how you're moving forward, mentorship and coaching from the amazing leaders that we talked about a little bit earlier, and access to industry leader speakers throughout your experience. One other note is we, like I said, want to make this accessible as possible. So we offer partial scholarships to make it more doable for people. You would access that after you've applied by submitting a scholarship application. And we also provide payment plans to help you to spread the tuition over a period of time to make it more doable for you. There's more information on our website under the frequently asked questions section. We also work with people to help get their employers to pay for the program. If you have any questions about that, you can connect with me or other members of the team to see what's possible. So finally, before we jump into questions, I wanted to turn it back to Millie, just to answer one of our kind of largest questions around application advice. And that's the one of, who are you looking for? There's a variety of people who get attracted to this fellowship, but who are the folks that are the best fit for the program? So I'll turn to Millie to answer that and also kick off some of our next steps in Q&A.
All right, thank you, Cole. As he mentioned, we do get a lot of questions because our fellows do come from a wide variety of background, professional experience, as well as parts of the world. And so there's a lot to go through and a lot that we consider. Some common questions that we get, for example, is like, what are whether or not we're looking for individuals who are more senior in their professional growth, if they have a lot of experience within the social impact space, which parts of the world they're coming from. And a big part of what we as a team look for in applicants is your impact aspirations. Many people may not have been a part of may not have worked within the social impact space intimately. However, when we look forward, how can you apply your past experience to help amplify that social impact space? So we look as well as to your commitment to your cohort and to your fellowship, because engagement is such a big part of the learning experience, especially once we shift from the in-person kickoff to the remote aspect of it. And so your dedication and commitment to checking in with your cohort on a weekly basis, engaging in the conversations, asking critical questions, those are really important factors. Finally, the skills and experiences that you're bringing to the table. And we do look for diversity here. And so it's okay if you come from a background that's very, very different from everyone else. That diverse experience enhances, I think, our time together and enables us to see things from different perspectives. And if you have any questions, about your specific situation, your experiences, whether or not you qualify for the fellowship, I strongly encourage you to just book a time with someone on our team. We're happy to walk you through that process and talk to you specifically about how you can improve your application process to be a strong candidate. And with that, let me pass it back to Mark and Cole.
Awesome. Thanks, Millie. So really quickly, just want to leave this slide up to give you all a feel for what the next steps are. So as I said, apply by October 19th. We accept applications on a rolling basis, so the sooner you apply, this gives you a better opportunity to get informed earlier for planning purposes, but we'll be making all of our decisions by the end of this next month, by October 31st. And then getting ready to launch our first cohort of 2019 in Mexico City, Mexico. After that, Immersive Weekend, which takes place January 18th through 21st, you will be joining our community, starting learning, getting connected to field placements that usually take place 1 to 2 or 3 months after the cohort launch. Happen for 2 to 3 weeks in the field. And then finally, the program completes in summer with a virtual send-off and graduation. So leave this up so you can get a little bit more of information about the program, but I'd also love to turn it over to the best part of the webinar, and that is any questions that you all have about the program that we can answer for you. So Millie, any questions that are coming up?
Thank you so much. Yes, there are a lot of questions coming through. You can use the Q&A feature on Zoom, as well as send your questions to us via the chat or email us at a later time if you're not able to get your questions in right now. But so one of the first questions that here, I think I'm going to direct this one at you, Cole, talks about the workload of the Institute. We have a number of individuals who are asking about the workload. They want to be an active part of the community, an active participant of the fellowship, but they're full-time professionals, so they're concerned about their ability to juggle the work.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we designed this program for working professionals, people who are, 7 to 15 years in their career or maybe more, people who are at the director level, managing teams, who have families. These are busy, really, really highly accomplished people, because we think that these are the folks that we want to kind of build on their skills. And the way that we help to support is by having a program that's deeply flexible. So some of those guides, those checklists that I showed, these are things that are always available to you. I'm always just a quick email away to dig in and start talking about them. But sometimes if projects come up, if life happens, we've designed our program so you can do it on your own time. You can go expertiering at a time that works for you. And really, just as a whole, we customize the program to be flexible for busy, working, highly accomplished professionals. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a feel that you are in the right place. And this is a program for you, taking into account your life and everything involved.
All right, thank you, Cole. This question is specific to the in-person kickoff. Regarding lodging, is it covered with for the kickoff? Like, can you break down the prices for the in-person kickoff?
Oh, sorry, Millie, back to me?
Yes.
Yeah, so for the kickoff, we again try to make it as affordable as possible. We try to set prices that make it possible for people from these localities, leaders who want to join, and bake into that price, the cost of lodging, the cost of the food in those areas. And so this is kind of the variability of the different areas. And we also provide a bunch of different options for you, so you can actually choose the one that would be the best fit for you. If you have any other questions, we're always happy to dive into more details, give you a better understanding of the costs and the things that go into the program. But again, our commitment is to make this as affordable as possible to you while covering the costs of continuing to grow this community and provide you with the best service possible.
All right, thank you, Cole. For this next question, I think I'll take it. It's regarding the matching process. So it says, I've browsed through your project platform and don't see anything that fits my skills or interests. What can I do for my social impact placement then? As I mentioned earlier, we'll be working with you, the matching team, as well as the Institute staff, to help you co-create a project. And so while we do have a platform that you can browse to see what are some currently published projects from organizations within our network, if there's anything that if you feel like it's not a good fit for your skills, your interests, your time in the field, etc., what happens during the fellowship is that you'll connect with us and our matching team, who will work with you to map out those particular details. And then together we'll co-create a project. So we'll work with organizations within our network who may not yet have published a project to find one that is a better fit for you. So don't worry if you're going through the platform and you don't see anything that's a good fit. That won't be a problem as part of the social impact placement process. And if you have any more questions about that, feel free to contact me later on. And another question, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of expectations for applicants, but could you talk a little bit more about the breadth of work experience that past fellows have come from and what you're expecting from applicants based on the fellows that you've talked about today through the presentation? It seems like a lot of them have come with a significant amount of professional skills and experiences. Can you talk a little bit more about whether or not it's possible for people with less experience to apply, and if so, how much less? Is that a cool question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I would say one thing is that we, on average, our applicants have 7 to 15 years of career experience, coming again from a diversity of sectors, which is something that we really emphasize and something that's deeply important to us. For every cohort, we do set aside a couple spots for people who are a little bit more junior in their career, but have demonstrated a solid track record of implementing their skills and serving as leaders on teams. So the application process is our way of getting to know more about you and your story and the things that you've done. I couldn't say that we have this specific thing that we're looking for with every candidate, because we recognize that all the leaders in our network are very unique. And so we use the application and interviews and conversations with you after that to learn more. So I would say if you have any doubt, and if you have any questions on if you would qualify, reach out to one of us, and we'd love to talk more and see if it would be a good fit for the program.
Okay, thank you, Cole. So we have one more question regarding scholarships and payment plan options, and maybe this one I'll address it to Mark. Can you talk a little bit more about scholarship options as well as payment plans, and do they exist, and if so, where can people find out more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So quick note about scholarships is that you do have to apply to the program itself before applying to a scholarship. We do have some of that information online. And from our website, you can also see a link to the scholarship form. Once you apply, you will also be provided a link to that scholarship form. Now, for more details about the actual scholarship, which I believe is the essence of the question here, we offer a few different levels in hopes of making it more approachable and increasing diversity of the cohort. Scholarships, we're not able to offer any 100% full ride scholarships at this time, nor are we able to fund any full ride travel scholarships as well, though these are pieces that we are eventually working on. As of now, the scholarships are tuition reduction scholarships. They within our scholarship pool, that averages to about a 20% reduction for those selected. Some people are at 10%, and occasionally we are actually able to get up to a couple 50% tuition reductions. In terms of over 50%, those are not possible currently for the program. Scholarships are granted on a few main criteria, again explained in the FAQs, but it looks at current work history, employment, level of your own dependencies, as well as your own career goals. And for us, the big focus is if from our limited scholarship funds, if we are allocating that to you, does that, so to say, become an investment on the world? So are you able to do more with your extra tutoring project or with engaging or supporting other initiatives as a result of that scholarship? So that's what we dive for, and we do have an application process for that scholarship process. And again, in order to access that, you would first submit your application, and then you'd be prompted to submit your scholarship. Now, for payment plan options, for more specifics there, the options are pay up front at a discount. There's a couple $100 discount for upfront payments, or you can amortize your payment over the 6 months of the program. And that's just an evenly distributed amount that, of course, varies on whether or not you have a scholarship that's being provided or not. And once you are accepted into the Institute, you will be given the choice, and you can let us know which payment plan that you prefer. Of course, you can also ask more questions about that during that process. The team is always available for questions. So if you do have questions, if you want to send us a quick note and say, I'm thinking about applying, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the right fit, I'd only be able to do it if I could get a scholarship. Can you give me some high-level guidance? We can't say yes or no in absolute terms before you go through the work. However, we can provide you some guidance based on, our previous alumni classes to say, hey, you're fitting within the maybe the average, or you're on an extreme, so that, maybe there's a chance. But we do try and be very, very honest and very upfront with every participant to help set clear expectations. Millie, I hope that answers the question, but I'll kick it back to you in case I've missed anything.
Indeed, thank you. And so that basically wraps up all the questions that we have today. If you have any questions, like Mark said, feel free to reach out to us, and maybe I'll kick this one back to you, Mark and Cole. What would be the best way for people to reach out if they have more questions and would like to have a follow-up session with either one of you?
Perfect. Thanks, Millie. And truly, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here. Our emails are listed here at the bottom of the slide. On our website itself, you will see a few different links to schedule a membership consultation. That links directly to a few of our calendars, so you're able to get, increase your likelihood of being able to find a time that works for you. If nothing does, or if it's just a short question, just shoot us an email. You can also email us directly at mwi@movingworlds.org. Again, that is just mwi@movingworlds.org, and we will make sure that gets sent to the most relevant member of our team who can answer that question. So at this time, Cole, I'll hand it back over to you to just say final words and sign us off the webinar.
Sweet. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Millie. And thank you so much, everyone tuning in from all over the world. We are so deeply committed and excited to be a part of building one of the largest purpose-driven professional networks around. And this is a learning community. This is a community to take action. This is a community to take the leap and feel safe because you're surrounded by people who are similar. Whether they're coming from the same country, the same city as you, or from across the world, these are folks who have the same values, the same desire to have a huge impact with their career. And we're just so excited to get a chance to serve you and honored to have you here with us. So look forward to seeing your applications. Please reach out via email or phone. Always happy to have a conversation. And thank you again for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.